Life group leaders, it is so good to have the opportunity to be in a video to you again. It's obviously been a long time. What we have planned, we think is going to be very fun. But before I get into the specifics of the coaching and the plan for Life group this week, I just want to suggest something. I know when I was at a church in Maritzburg where we were getting a lot of Life group resources, after a while I sort of turned my brain off slightly and just started applying the stuff I was receiving every week. Now, I've been away, so I don't know if you're guilty of that at all or not. But I do know that it's been a pretty long feeling term already because of all the public holidays and the things that have broken momentum. So many of the life group leaders I've chatted to have felt like slogging through trying to produce good, spiritually deep life groups every week has maybe gone a little bit flat, and they're struggling to keep momentum in their life group. So I just want to sort of pause and encourage you to check carefully where you think your people are actually at. Because remember, you have full license to go, thanks, Paul, but no thanks. I'm not going to do your stuff this week. I know what my people need, and it's much more important for us to do something fun and social instead of going into content, and we want to back you to make that decision. So before you watch any more of this coaching video and think about the rest of the stuff in the resource pack, I'd like you to just spend a few moments going, am I sure that I know where my people are, or have I switched my brain off slightly because I'm receiving content every week and I'm just implementing that stuff? If you're in Florida Road, probably have a community event in your area coming up quite soon. Clue Fights, you know that we're going to be watching Comrades this Sunday, so we've had a chance for that sort of stuff. But don't forget to do the things within your life group as well. If it's just have a sushi evening or a bra evening or whatever it is that is going to work for your life group at this point, then I recommend that you do that. Okay, having said that though, if you are keen, then I think we've come up with something pretty cool for you to do this week. And you're going to have 4 components to your night. The first component is we want to give you plenty of time to look back on what happened last week. Last week, Matt would have given you those 3 questions or deals to kind of make with yourself. To start with, being just grateful, the gratitude thing, thanking God for all the stuff that will give you reason to be content. Number 2, celebrating others instead of competing with them and feeling like you want to compare yourself to them. And thirdly, generosity. Going, well, if God has blessed me and given me reason to be content, then I'm going to flood that out into other people instead of clinging on to it and hoping to kind of accumulate more stuff. So what we suggest you do at the beginning of your life group is re-ask those same 3 questions and give people a chance to report back. How did it go on the being grateful every day thing? How did it go on celebrating others' victories instead of being jealous of them? How did it go on being generous? And just give people a chance to give testimonies and some feedback. And some people may have nothing to say, and that's fine, but then as a loving community, you get to go, cool, well, what are you going to do this week? And for those that do have cool testimonies, it's a great opportunity to celebrate those things. So that will be component number 1. Component number 2 is when I'm going to ask you to put on a little video where I'm going to explain the idea of a community of faith to your life group. I've been in church for a long time, and church is a community about faith, always, but it isn't always a very good community of faith. And when I have been in a community of faith, it's been cool, because what's basically going on when you're in a community of faith, and that's often when a life group really starts to crank, or when a few a small group of people within the church start to hold each other accountable and get excited about the things of God, what starts to happen is that my mates look at me and figure out what I'm feeling excited about and called to and gifted in, and they encourage me in that. And I do the same for my mates. And then as I take small steps of faith and try to share my faith with someone who doesn't know Jesus, or try to invite someone to a church event, or take a step of faith and try and prophesy over someone, or start to tithe, or decide to not date anyone until I feel like I'm actually sure, as a student, that was quite a big deal for a lot of us guys in Maritzburg. Those sorts of things, as I take my small steps of faith, then my community of faith, my mates around me, would give me big kudos and encouragement for that stuff, even if I'd fallen flat and the prophetic word had been abysmal, or whatever the case may be, or no one came when I invited them to church. Communities of faith are amazing for that, because they get around each other and they rally each other and they honor and encourage the gifts and the tentative steps of faith that everyone in that community is starting to take. I'd love for your life group to start to look more and more like that. And so in the video, I'm going to explain a little bit out of Romans 12, which at the moment is kind of like my current favorite scripture, because it paints this amazing picture of what a community can look like. And Paul's giving this wonderful, practical, beautiful advice to the community saying, do this, don't do that. which allows us to start to look like that kind of community. So I'll explain it to your group, and then you're going to have a chance to chat about it together. So having read Romans 12, what I'm going to suggest you do is, in the questions that the people will have, you'll have the chance to go through that scripture. I'm actually going to sort of reformat it slightly. You'll see in your resource pack that you can print it out if you like. Romans 12 with spaces next to all the cool instructions that Paul gives you. And so what you'll do as a group is you'll look at this sort of reformatted version of Romans 12 and go through it and give your people an opportunity to go, sure, that there is what really challenges me. Paul telling me to think of myself not more highly than I ought to, but really be a bit more humble. Or Paul telling me to bear with people and encourage them all the time and be happy to associate with people who I thought were lowly. Or encouraging the gift that I have, not wasting it, but really using it. And all the different very cool instructions that Paul has in there. Give your people a chance to go through and the phrase, the instruction, the comment that Paul makes that really hits them, for them to asterisk it, tick it, underline it, and then, and this is where it should become interesting, put a name next to it. Because a lot of what Paul is telling us to do applies to our relationships with other people very specifically. So if there's someone that up till now I've been dishonoring and thinking isn't worth hanging out with, and where Paul says, don't think of yourself more highly than you should, be prepared to hang out with the lowly, and I go, sure, that's hitting home. I'm not just going to asterisk it in a general way, I'm going to put a real name of someone I know next to that verse and go, God, thank you so much for cutting me to the heart on that thing. I'm going to go and hang out with that person who up till now I've felt okay to ignore, whatever the case may be. So give your people time to go through Romans 12 and let specific verses work on them and to put specific names or actions or decisions or next steps next to those verses. Okay, so that's section number 3. You've started by looking back on last week. You've then had a chance to chat about what a community of faith might be. And then you've given people a chance to go through Romans 12 and commit to the next steps in becoming like a member of one of those communities. Last step. To end the night, and I trust you still have time to do this, but what I'm going to ask you to do is get your people up out of their seats, standing, and feeling a little kind of re-energized. And I'm going to ask that you get them to pray for each other. And what you're doing is this. You're praying, firstly, that people would have the courage to follow through on the thing that they've just decided to do out of Romans 12. Secondly, you're going to sometimes kind of come out of that praying mode and let people actually just genuinely encourage what they see inside the members in the life group that you're busy praying for at that moment. So be a community of faith. So we're kind of praying for everyone. You can structure this how you like. And I go, bro, this is what I see in you. You're good at this and good at this and good at this. Romans 12 tells us to enjoy honoring each other and encouraging each other. That's what you're going to have the chance to do. So praying for each other, and then someone's going to pop up saying, well, I've seen you do this, and I think it's great when you do that. Keep it up. Good going. Even though it failed last time, I'm proud of you for trying to share your faith. And you carry on praying for each other, and someone else pops up, and I've seen you do that. And that's proof of God at work in your life. And be encouraged. That's a cool thing. Keep it up. Even if it's at the very early stages of looking like a fruit of the Spirit. And so you're going to go, giving people the opportunity to kind of say, I spotted you do that and it was great, or I see that in you and it's great, and then getting the chance to pray that stuff into each other. You'll know where your group is at, and so that might look more like praying a lot, or that might look more like a conversation because they're not brave enough to do that. That's totally up to you. But what I would recommend is that you and your core and your 2IC have spent good time going through the list of names properly, going, Lord, what is it that person's got a gift in? What is it that person's taken a step of faith in? So that at least someone in the group knows what they're going to say to Johnny in the corner, who may be new and may be quiet. Okay? So make sure that you've done the homework yourself, so that you've got stuff to throw into the pit if no one else is saying anything good and encouraging about people in your group. If you've done all those things, what I hope is that your life group is starting to get a little bit of vision and a little bit of a practical idea of what being a community of faith, instead of just a community about faith, might be. Cool. So enjoy. Good luck.